Hi, my name's Erin, and I did my paper on the Minangkabau of Indonesia. So I'm going to give you a very brief outline of what my paper is going to be on. So I'm probably going to read mostly from this. The Minangkabau are the fourth largest ethnic group in the Indonesian archipelago. They're indigenous to the mountain highlands of West Sumatra. They number around 4 million. There are a number of ways the Minangkabau define their identity, and many ways in which their identity was formed and has morphed as the Minangkabau adapted their identity to a shifting world. The paper will begin with a brief history of the Minangkabau, their physical origins, and conflicts that they've had. Next, there are the traditions, customs, and social orders that form the core of identity shaping and definition. One of the things that I found in Peggy Sandé's book, Women at the Center, about her extensive time spent with the Minangkabau, are the three strands that come together to form Minangkabau's central identity. She talks about them as strands of rope, or strands that form a rope that is their core of identity. And the three strands are Adat, which is Minangkabau's traditional customs, mostly centering around their matrilineal social order. And then there's also Islam, and then their government or nationality. They strongly identify with being Indonesian. So these 3 points, especially Islam and Adat, will be predominantly discussed in their customs and identity. It's their largest defining point and a source of much conflict resolution of this paradox, because Islam is fairly patriarchal and they have a very matrilineal tradition that forms their identity. So the harmonizing of these 3 conflicts has shaped their identity. Another identifying force for the Minangkabau is food. Both its value and associations, as well as the rituals and customs involving food, shape their identity. Like in the articles we read in class, food becomes part of the individual and thusly is part of the individual becoming or being Minangkabau, and as well as being part of a family group, a specific family group, and a kinship group. The last part that I'm going to discuss in identity formation is their tradition. They call it merantau, but it's a tradition of voluntary migration for males in their society. Because they're matrilineal, they can go to other places and pursue other interests. And it's had a big impact on the Minangkabau in general and their place in Indonesia as one of Indonesia's many, many ethnic groups. It has provided the men with a liberal freedom to pursue other aims and goals, including business, politics, and education. And it is totally a result of the Minangkabau's matrilineal custom that allows the men to be able to leave and go do other things because the women are taking care of the home and the farmland. Finally, my paper will focus on some of the issues and conflicts currently affecting the Minangkabau's identity and potentially adapting their identity to a new world. So much of the threat to Minangkabau autonomy and identity comes from modernization and globalization. With modernization comes a decreasing significance of the agricultural land and the ancestral land, because agriculture isn't a significant way of making money for their families anymore. Therefore, the matrilineal world that revolves around that and their adat, their morals and customs, have faced some major issues and adaptations they've had to take on. But they still very much want to remain matrilineal. It's a huge part of their identity. So the original reasons they did it, some of them are out the window, but some of them still exist. And that I'll go into in depth in my paper. Other issues adapting to the 20th century are individualism, economics, like the farmland and technology, fundamentalist Islamic views versus the way they've had to shape Islam as a spirituality versus a fundamental set of laws to fit in with their adat, their like traditional customs. There's pressure from the Islamic world for them to be more fundamentalist, and that has existed for a long time. You'll see in the historical section of my paper. So yeah, hopefully, and also the Western family model versus their traditional matrilineal large households in a modern world that becomes less of a thing that makes sense to do for them. So hopefully this paper will highlight some of the biggest defining facets of what it is to be Minangkabau, and finally, and show how those facets came into being, like what forces made them identify the way they've identified. And finally, illustrate some of the threats to their traditional identity and how they're trying to adapt their identity to the current world and their place in it. Thank you very much. I hope I do well. Please let me know if there's anything else that you feel like I should talk about. All right, thank you. Bye.